Hi, my name is Dominique, and this English grammar lesson is about punctuation. I'm just going to go through all punctuation marks and just remind you of their uses. Okay, so certain punctuation marks end a sentence. Okay, so they come at the end of a thought and they're there for a pause and for an effect. Okay, a full stop is there. Okay, just your full stop, your period in the US. And that is after you make a statement. And this is often called a declarative sentence, okay, which means you declare something. You're just making a statement, and at the end of the statement is a full stop. However, if you're trying to make a strong point or express a strong feeling, you're going to use your exclamation mark. And please, only one. Okay. Question mark, there's a direct question at the end of a sentence, and you put the question mark in there. And I'll show you where we put these punctuation marks in dialogue when we're using quotation marks at the end of the lesson. Punctuation marks can also indicate a pause. Okay, so sometimes it's when we're reading and we need to take a breath, or we need to separate ideas, or we need to start listing something. And there are 3 pause punctuation marks. We have got, and just so that you can see the difference, okay, we've got our comma, we've got our semicolon, which is a comma and a little dot on the top, okay? And a colon is 2 little dots, okay? So semi means half, so it's not 2 halves, it's a little half a dot, okay? Your comma is there to separate lists, we know this. If we're going to be buying bread, milk, and eggs, okay, we're going to do bread, milk, and eggs. So we're separating this list here. We're giving a list. But most importantly, we forget to do this when we do greetings. Okay, so if I am saying, hello, Mark, okay, I need to put a comma in between Mark. If I say, thank you, Mrs. Glamini, okay, in between the greeting and the person you're greeting that you name, you must put a comma. So that's an important thing to remember. A semicolon connects clauses closely. So sometimes you don't want to end your sentence. You want to give it a further explanation. And that is where this comes in. And maybe it's a long sentence and you need to break and you need to carry on, but it often indicates, okay, it often shows us that whatever comes afterwards is explaining what comes before. So in a comprehension, if you asked why did the writer use a semicolon in the sentence, look at it and separate what comes after and what comes before. And very possibly the answer is going to be that this further explains everything in the clause before. Okay. A colon always introduces a list. So after the colon, you're going to have a whole list separated by commas, okay? Or in a dialogue, it will introduce a quotation. Okay, so if you are going, Sipho says, okay, you're going to have your colon, I want to sleep. Okay, and that is where your colon goes there. So that is not for direct speech. It's mostly for dialogues where you're going to put the quotation in. And that is where you use your colon. Okay, so these are pauses for different reasons. Pauses to separate lists, to separate ideas, and to introduce something so that the reader knows what is coming. Otherwise, we're just reading. It's a sign for us to understand what is coming next. The next punctuation marks often get a little bit confusing for us. Okay. The dash and the hyphen both look like this, and we often get the names confused. A hyphen joins words together. So, post-colonial, okay, our history words that we often use. This is a hyphen because it joins 2 words together to create a compound word, okay. Whereas if we use a dash in a sentence, okay, Sally went to the shops, and we want to give a little bit more explanation or create a pause in creative writing slowly. So we almost use it like a comma. However, you can use dashes as parentheses. Now, parentheses we usually see as being brackets. Okay, I've used an example here. And to remember this word, they are parents. They are hugging you. They are keeping you safe. Okay, so ideas in parentheses are usually for further thoughts or explanations that are given to you. And a dash can also be used as parentheses. But then I would use the dash here and the dash here, and then I would be carrying on my sentence. So I've got parentheses, dash, further thoughts or explanations, dash for language, and these would function as parentheses, just like my brackets do. Okay, so sometimes your comprehension questions will say, why has the writer used dashes? And if you see there's 2 dashes, and there's something extra in between them, you know it's for parentheses. And sometimes it's because they're whispering to you or they're saying something to you that's different from the rest of the article. Okay, so if you identify parentheses, okay, 2 dashes, it's there for a specific reason, to add on extra information. Your apostrophe. Your apostrophe is only for omission and possession. What does this mean? It firstly means that you do not use an apostrophe in a plural. Okay, because if you do that, it means that it is possession. If you do cats, okay, with an apostrophe before the S, it's the possession of one cat, the cat's milk. And if I do cat's milk and I put the apostrophe after the S, that cats is plural, so it is plural possession as well. Okay, so in that case, I'm using my apostrophe correctly, but not if I'm saying that that is a plural, because it's not. That is my plural there. And then I place the apostrophe afterwards for, not omission, possession. Omission is when you have shortened a word. I have taken the word cannot, and I've taken 2 letters out. And to indicate that, I put in an apostrophe. Okay, so it's almost like an abbreviation. So remember apostrophe, not for plurals, only for possession and for omission. Quotation marks. I like to tell my students to always use 2 quotation marks when they are telling me directly what somebody has said. Because often we just use these 2 little ones, which I can see as inverted commas. And that is sometimes when you're being sarcastic, okay? Sarcastic. So I differentiate. I say rather use 2 for quoting and 1 for inverted commas. But when you get literature and text, you often have only 1 little apostrophe on either side, okay, opening and closing direct speech, and you often have 2 for inverted commas. So it really depends on the context, whether it is quotation marks or inverted commas. But what you must remember are quotation marks always on both sides, okay. I'll show you just now how you do direct speech punctuation. You'll see it opens and closes the quoted words. Last punctuation mark we're looking at is our ellipsis dots. Only 3, not 6 down the page. Okay, only 3. And why do we use ellipsis dots? Our most popular one is continuation or suggesting that something is happening. He walked towards the haunted house, ... Okay, build suspense. We don't know what's happening. Okay, so that is continuation, or somebody says something and then they sort of trail their words off. Okay, and there's a bit of suspense and a bit of mystery there. But you can also use, especially in academic text, you use ellipsis as omission to show that you have omitted some words. Because when I'm quoting Jeff Bezos talking about all his shares and what he's doing next, okay, I'm going to say what he says and then I'm going to put 3 dots and then I'm going to carry on saying, quoting him, and maybe I left something out in the middle. So when you see those quotes, those dots in the middle of a quote or middle of some research, you know that it means that they've left something out, okay? Whereas if it's at the end of a sentence, especially at the end of a paragraph, it gives suspense or mystery, okay? Just to go over the placement of your punctuation within direct speech, okay? And I can see I've already made a mistake. There should be an opening quotation marks and closing quotation marks, because what did my mother shout? Stop yelling, my mother shouted. Okay, so if I said stop yelling, my mother shouted, that's what she's saying. No, I need to put it where she has spoken. And we have used an exclamation mark because she is shouting, okay? And we put that exclamation mark before the quotation mark because it's referring to how she said that quote, okay? When we start with our subject, Tepiso asked, the comma comes before our first open quotation mark. there is my close quotation mark, and my question mark goes inside because who borrowed my bike belongs to what Tsepiso said. So Tsepiso asked, who borrowed my bike, comma, before quotation marks, and a question mark before the last quotation marks. And last one, Stacy says you're not invited to my party. So what does she say? This part, she says, okay, and then at the end, we don't really use full stops in direct speech. So once I finished a statement, remember our declarative, declaring factual statement, okay, you put a comma because we've still got words going on, and then I finished my sentence there. So open and close quotations in order to say what she has said, and then before the quotation marks, your comma, said Stacy. Okay, so punctuation marks are there for a reason. And you will be asked to put them in to make sense, but also to make sense of what a writer has put in. So why has the writer put a comma here? To make a list. Why is there an exclamation mark? To make a point. How does it change the writer's tone because they use this exclamation point? Okay, so that's where you're taking your punctuation to, but you always need to know why they are being used. Thank you.